You guys doing okay? Can you hear me all right? Okay. Hey, I just want to make sure you guys know I get to go and preach and speak at a lot of places. How blessed you guys are to have the musicians and the band you guys have. Do you guys know how lucky you guys are? I go a lot of places, and some of them I'm like, hey, God bless you for your service. And then others are a little bit more enjoyable. So anyway, it is always a blessing to be with you guys. Little disclaimer before we get started. I'm coming off like a serious illness, bronchitis. I'm not contagious. Haven't been contagious. I had a huge allergy attack that then turned into an infection. All this kind of stuff caused partial like pneumonia and almost appendicitis. The infection got down there. So I just got back from Italy. Anyone see that on social media? Yeah. So I lost half my vacation. I was in the hospital in Italy, which those hospitals suck. And so, and then I got back and I was in the ER 2 nights ago. So listen, if I get a little coughing fit, just wait a second. If I don't pass out, boom, we're going to get right back into the sermon. All right. So I'll be okay. But I am kind of getting my voice back and some other things. So if I'm a little draggy or sound a little bit, it's because I am, but I'm okay. So, little just disclaimer there. If you're like, man, Phil sounds like he's been, like scratching his throat. I have. Now, Russ and your mom's in Cabo now, correct? Is your sister in Cabo? She leaves. So you guys like stair-step this thing. So Dad was like, I don't want to see anybody. Then I just want to see my bride. Then I'll love my children. And then you're stair-stepping and coming back too, aren't you? So I was going to say, what a great example of family time, but it's not. It's not. It was going to be my example for like, hey, here's a good family, but it's like they don't really like each other. They're kind of, kind of shows, and I'm just kidding, or maybe not. But Russ is down in Cabo, so we put this on the calendar months and months and months ago. I know this is a trip they always look forward to each and every year, to relax, to engage, make new memories, and so I am excited for them. And as you see the title, How to Annoy Your Family, listen, we're not going to be talking about really like how to annoy. You guys hopefully have figured that out. But if you're anything like me, like when people, and I'll just say people in general, it can be a family member, it can just be somebody else, but when they really do the right thing, when they are consistently high character people, when they are consistently Christ-centered people, when they are consistently doing the things they're supposed to be doing, and you are not, it can be annoying. It can be frustrating, disappointing, convicting. When you see people who are just more patient than you, and you should be patient, and you pray for patience, and they're patient, and then you're mad. Or, you ask for maybe advice. I'll call my dad asking for advice. Dad, here's the situation, here's the circumstance, I'm not sure what to do. And he'll give me one or two, like, well, you called me because I think you know the answer. I'm like, not calling you anymore, Dad. Thanks a lot. So you'll get that. Or they give you the piece of wisdom that you really are longing for, but maybe you really don't want. It is a little annoying, is it not, when other people are right, or maybe other people are living right, and you're not. There's this conviction, this disappointment, and it can kind of get at you a little bit. Now, we can go one of two ways with that. That can propel you to live more like Christ. That can catapult you to renew your mind, to renew your spirit, to renew your life, and to begin to become more and more like Christ in your actions and in your words and in your day-to-day. Or it can push you further away because the immaturity, the bitterness, the sin that's in your heart will begin to continue to grow, continue to exponentially kind of spread, and you'll just get more and more and more negative, bitter, and disappointed. And so the goal for this 2 weeks as we talk about relationships, especially our primary family relationships, is to help us be the kind of people that have wisdom in our hearts, compassion in our lives, Christ-centeredness in our everyday, that when people do come to us, maybe we are the ones, pushing them to do better, live better, and be better. And it might annoy them for a little bit, but we can be those leaning posts. We can be those examples. We can be the salt and the light within our home, within our marriage, within our extended family. I've told you guys my story, I don't know how many times now, but I didn't grow up in church. I didn't have, I had good examples. I didn't have Christ-centered examples. And so for me, when I found Christ in 9th grade and began to follow Jesus, one, it was new, but two, it was a little difficult because within my home, I had really nowhere to look to be able to continue to push forward and to grow. And so my mentors were really a grandfather that I got to see some and my youth pastor. I really latched onto my youth pastor because he was that Christ-centered example for me. But I'm hoping in your home it's different. I'm hoping for you teenagers and for your children and your grandchildren it's different. That you are that example. You are that leaning post. You are that man. Everything has fallen through. Who can I call person? And the first person or the second person they think of is you. That's who you want to be. That's how you want to live. That's a blessing. That's a blessing to be that person. I was just in Italy and I got a text from one of my old youth group kids. And I say, old youth group kid, he's in his 30s. And so he's like, Phil, I got to talk. I'm like, I'm on vacation and I'm like 2 days away from dying. I didn't know it, but Tommy, I love you. But one, I don't know the data exchange rates. This is going to be an expensive text conversation. And two, like, what's up, man? And I got a ministry question. He's a youth pastor. Man, I just don't know what to do here. And so, I go from the money it's going to cost, and I'm on vacation to, he's reaching out to you, Phil. Out of everyone in the world, literally, I'm not in Oklahoma, I'm in the world. Out of everyone in the world, he wants you. That's the kind of life you want to live. That's the kind of example you want to be. It's the kind of person that Christ wants to develop within you so that you will be that person. So, these 2 weeks are to enhance our relationships, strengthen our relationships, strengthen our homes, our marriages. And each week I'm going to give you some homework. I'm going to give you something to do when you go out to be able to push yourselves, propel yourselves, catapult yourself to be that kind of person. Our foundational verse for this week and for next week, 2 verses, Philippians 2, verses 3 and 4. It says, don't be selfish. Don't live to make a good impression on others, but be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. Don't just think about your own affairs, but be interested in others and in what they are doing. And so what we are looking for is an others-centered attitude. An others-centered attitude. That's the attitude, that's the perspective, that's the mindset we want to build. Now, if you're anything like me, an others-centered attitude is like a light switch in my life. Sometimes it's on, and sometimes it's off. Sometimes I have an other-centered attitude. Sometimes I can look and go, man, I am pouring into others. I'm calling people to check in on them. I'm praying for, my prayers are more others-centered than self-centered. Like I am living that kind of life. Then something happens. I couldn't tell you each and every time what, but something happens and the switch goes off. And I get real self-focused about my calendar, my time, my desires, my wants, all these different things. And that other-centered attitude is kind of placed on a shelf. Kind of goes dormant. And I need a reminder. I need a catalyst. I need something to kind of inject back into me. Hey, Phil, that's not what it's supposed to be like. The day-to-day you're living now is not the day-to-day it's supposed to be like. And the switch comes back on. And so I want to tell you first as we begin, and you're going, well, Phil, how do you do that all the time? Well, honestly, I don't. I wish I did. I wish I could stand before you and go, yeah, man, I am all about other people all the time. I'm not. But as I grow older, and as I push forward, and as I learn, and as I build discipline and accountability into my life, and as I grow closer to Christ, I become more other-centered than what I used to be. The light switch stays on longer than what it used to be. There is an improvement. And so what we are looking for, I say this all the time, is progression, not perfection. I'm not expecting, nor should you expect, to walk out of here and be like, I'm going to be an other-centered person the rest of my life, no doubt. I mean, go out with that, all right? But then on Wednesday, when you fail, all right, don't be like, well, crap, I wonder what Phil's going to say on Sunday. All right, like, don't do that to yourself or to me but listen, you've got to get better. I've got to get better. If we want the gospel to permeate our community, our churches, our schools, our kids, our families, our homes, our relationships, this has to improve. This has to change. You have to grow. I have to grow. And so what we're going to look at today is really three different areas that are polar opposite. Like, we're going to look at an area, and really we've got two paths, two selections, two directions we can kind of choose in these areas of life. One being others-centered, and could really help change those primary relationships, our family, with our spouse, our children, and one that could really be a detriment in that area. And so as we tackle these three areas, and as I show you these two directions, each time I want you to take like a 5 or 10 self-assessment. Okay, there's that or there's that. Which one do I primarily choose? Like when I have a choice. When this collision happens in my life, when it deals with forgiveness, or when it deals with bitterness, or when it deals with love, or building bridges, or my words, or my language, whatever it is, the things we're going to cover, what do I default to most times? And let's see maybe one of these areas today, maybe we need to pick and really try to tackle this week to improve and change and really get better on in our lives. So, other-centered attitude. So we can have a me-first attitude or other-centered actions. Here's the first area I want us to really dissect, talk about, and really look at. The first one is you can tear down and lose, or you can build up and win with your words. You can tear down and lose, or you can build up and win with your words. Now, the Bible is chock full. I mean, you just do a search. Just type in tongue, search, words, search. You will see hundreds of verses that talk about the power of this and this. Hundreds. Talking about how important what we say is in our day-to-day lives. Now, we're in a totally different age right now, because the Bible is talking about this, because this is, and then we got pen to paper, and those are words, and those count, right? Those count. And now we've got these devices, and we can send words in a multitude of ways, on a multitude of platforms. And so our words are more diverse than even what the biblical scholars, when we go here in a little bit, we start looking at some of these verses. Like our words now, they're words upon words upon words upon words, platforms and it's so, so important. So important. I coach all my kids in various sports. One of the commitments I made when I had kids is that as much as I could, I would be their Little League coaches for a couple of reasons. One, I'm a control freak. Two, I wanted to not only mentor my kids through athletics, but mentor the kids around them in athletics. And I wanted to be a positive male role model, because being a youth pastor for over a decade, I realized how many kids were growing up without male role models, Christian male role models. And I wanted to be that at various life stages and places and platforms. So I've done football and basketball and soccer and track and all these different things. And so we had a game on Friday night, and I'm thinking about our message, and we're coaching, and there's two of these 7-on-7 passing league football deals going on. So I'm watching our team, and there's two other teams playing over here, and it's the top two teams. and the parents are going crazy. The kids are going, I mean, it's like Super Bowl. And it's just a regular game. It's not playoffs, not nothing. Parents are running up and down. These kids are 9 years old. They're 9 years old. And I'm just sitting out there, and we're sending kids out, and they're like, Coach Philip, where do I line up? I was like, these are the kids I get. Where the kids over there are like, audible, blue 7. I'm like, how do you get the kids who pass the ACT at 9, and how do I get the kids that have a donut stuffed in their sock? Like, you know. But I'm watching our game, but you can't help but hear this game. Something happens. I don't even know what happens. And a kid is being pulled off the field. And you hear, get over here. Get over here. Are you a man? Are you a man? Because you're not acting like a man, and that's not what a man would do, so man up. Do you got me? Man up. And so I'm coaching, and I'm like, he's not a man. He's 9. Like, best bet he's not shaving for another 3 or 4 years. Like, he's not a man. And I get what, you're trying to push him. That's okay. That's all right. I try to do that, but not like that. Not with those words. Our words are vital. They're so, so important. So I picked 3 to share with you. Ephesians 4:29, when you talk, do not say harmful things. Is that pretty plain? It's pretty plain. Pretty plain. But say what people need, words that will help others become stronger. Then what you say will help those who listen to you. What are the type of people we're trying to be? The leaning posts, the helpers, the encouragers, the salt, the light. So if you don't say harmful things, and you say things that help make people stronger, guess who they're going to call when they're weak? They're going to call you. Not because you sound pretty and you have quotes and you're eloquent, but because they're broken and they need help. So we can tear down or we can build up. Proverbs 12:18, careless words stab like a sword, but wise words bring healing. Psalm 64:3. I looked this one up this morning. I was like, man, there's just too many. I want to share another. And out of all the ones I kind of looked at, this one kind of got highlighted for some reason. Psalm 64:3. It's not on the screen. They sharpen their tongues like swords and aim cruel words like deadly arrows. They sharpen their tongue like swords, and they give cruel words like deadly arrows. One of the things that I think would help set apart Jesus followers and those who don't would be our language, our words. I am predicting and assuming, and I can be wrong, but on the day-to-day when we're not in this room and you're in the offices and the cubicles and the this and the that, if we were to compare the words that are said, I wonder how different we would sound. I wonder, just how many deadly arrows do you send out in comparison with those with no hope and no light? How much of an encouragement are you compared to the world? And I get it. There are seasons where the light switch is off and it's really hard to be an others-centered, focused person because so much is coming at you. But you have control of what comes out of here. You have control of what gets typed on there. You have control. And if you want to be that person, that leaning post, that encourager, if you want to be that annoyance in a good way to your family and to your friends and to your coworkers, we have to get control. And so for you, self-assessment, like, how are you on that? to your spouse. Out of all the words you say to your spouse, how many build up and how many tear down? To your kids. I have to really watch it with my kids, because they'll do some stuff. You know what I'm saying? They will do some stuff. And I was like, how do I encourage them to stop being buttheads? Like, what wordage should I use? And sometimes I have to step away, recalibrate, and re-enter before I speak. Because if I just speak, it's not going to be good. So I've learned to do that. I've learned to pause before I react. So your words can build up, or they could tear down. Area number two. You can be ungrateful and lose, or be thankful and win. You can be ungrateful and lose, or be thankful and win. This is really a perspective on fairness. It's really a perspective on fairness. How fair you feel you are being treated, how fair you feel you are being given and blessed in this life compared to who your comparisons can change quickly, depending on who you collide with in life. Sometimes it's the coworker, sometimes it's whoever it is, but we compare. We're in this constant competition of compareness, and we just compare. And many times we get this feeling of ungratefulness. One of my favorite times, I don't get to do it every night, but the nights I really get to sit with my 4-year-old Dylan, and we get to have prayer time. And her prayers are different than with my 12 and my 9-year-old. And her prayers are all thankful prayers. She doesn't really know, how do you pray for the people in Guatemala and this and that. She's not there yet. So she's a thankful prayer person. So we lay there and I go, well, let's pray. Jesus, thank you for my mom. Thank you for my dad. Thank you for my brother and my sister. And thank you for that stuffed animal right there. And thank you for this. And 2 days ago, thank you for ice cream. I would like to have ice cream again. Thank you, 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 thank you. It is a great reminder, because out of the ones we're going for, this is my biggest struggle. This is the one that eats me up more than the others. Because honestly, I feel with my job, my career, like I'm a giver and I'm an other-centered person, and sometimes I see people that aren't other-centered, and they're getting everything they ever wanted, as I'm still tackling, struggling, wrestling through different aspects of my life, whatever they may be. And I wonder why. But Lord, why am I not blessed like they are blessed? Or why have I not been given the opportunities they've been? Or whatever it may be. And I start to become ungrateful instead of thankful. And it's at those times in the bed with my 4-year-old that I get tapped on the shoulder and say, Phil, you remember the ice cream 2 days ago? That was a good moment. That was a good time. Be thankful. Be thankful. 1 Thessalonians 5:18, give thanks whatever happens. That is what God wants for you in Christ Jesus. Give thanks in whatever happens. Teenagers, college kiddos, you know how much on average in America it takes to get you from crib to, I know it's like robe and graduation season, right? Like all Facebook, graduation, you know on average here in America, middle income, what it takes to get you guys across that stage? $1.5 million. $1.5 million. You're gonna have to pay that back. So I don't know if you know that. It's coming. That's just a loan. $1.5 million. And sometimes you don't get the phone you want, or the shoes you want, or this, that, or that. I get it. $1.5 million. Be thankful. Be thankful. Tonight I'm doing an event with my company, raising a lot of money for different organizations at Topgolf, and one of them's a camp for kids in foster care. We do a camp for kids in foster care because as kids move homes, many times their birthday is not celebrated because they're hopping and skipping and moving. This camp every year does a one-night birthday party for every single kid in the whole deal, the whole camp. Some of the most emotional nights I've had in my life is at that stinking birthday party. Everyone's laughing and, oh, look what I got, look what I got. And I'm sitting there and I'll sit with the kid and we'll talk. And this is my first birthday I've had in 3 years. This is so awesome. Like, if you don't post on my Facebook page on my birthday party, like, we might not be friends anymore. Like, you guys keep tabs like that? Yeah, I know you do. Like, hey, I'm waiting on Russ. When's Russ going to go, hey, you didn't Facebook birthday post me, James Hell. What's up? And here's a young man smiling ear to ear going, it's my first one in 3 years. Isn't it great? Whew, man. Grateful, unthankful. How are you on that? This is my struggle. I need work in this. This is the one, the light switch goes off more times than not. And I've got to remember how good I have it and how much God has given me and how great, no matter what is happening, my life is. It is hard. We should be more thankful. It should be a natural outflow, but unfortunately, it is not. Lastly, you can be bitter and lose, or you can forgive and win. Ephesians 4, verses 31 through 32. Stop being bitter or angry or mad. Quarreling, harsh words, and dislike of others should have no place in your lives. Instead, be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another just as God has forgiven you, because you belong to Christ. Stop being bitter or angry or mad. Quarreling, harsh words, and dislike of others should have no place in your lives. Stop being mad. Wouldn't that be great if we could all just do that instantly? I've been told bitterness and unforgiveness. A pastor in Del City gave me this quote, and I love it. He goes, living with bitterness and unforgiveness is like you drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Doesn't that match? Like, it's you drinking poison and thinking, yep, any day they're gone. Because you get consumed with whatever has happened, whatever they act like, whatever they're doing, and it's consuming and controlling you and not them. So we just took this trip to Italy, and everything we planned was planned around Monday of last week. There was a place I really wanted to go. I always say it wrong. It's called Cinque Terre. It's 5 fishing villages on the Mediterranean cliffs, a big hike. Really, really cool, and it's kind of like the off-the-beaten path Italy. So we went to Rome and all, but it's kind of the off-the-beaten path. So it was my one thing I got to pick, big day. We bus out there, do a little trip, bus back all day thing, and I got really sick on Sunday. I had a 103-degree temperature, so I went to the hospital. So they're giving me all this stuff, and I said, hey, doc, who, by the way, my doctor, Steve Kerr. His name is Steve Kerr. You get basketball fans. That's the coach of Golden State Warriors. It's not really Steve Kerr. He's from England. He was old and fat. His name was Steve Kerr. So I got to meet Steve Kerr, James House. Steve Kerr. So I'm sitting there, and I got a picture with him. I was like, if I'm dying, selfie with Steve Kerr. And I'm like, Doc, tomorrow's the day, man. Everything is around tomorrow. Like, I got to be able to go tomorrow. And overnight, I get worse, not better. And my temperature sustained, and I couldn't breathe without coughing. I couldn't breathe, and so 4 or 5 in the morning, I look over to Lisa. I was like, we ain't going. And she's like, I know. I said, but we've been planning this for months. This was the day. Today's the day. We're going to see Italian fishermen guys. We're going to it's going to be amazing. And we're going to get these pictures on these cliffs, and today is the day. And we're not going. I was so disappointed. So disappointed. Like it wasn't really, I didn't have the energy to be angry. I was just like, oh, I was just disappointed. But here's the deal. I bounced back a little bit. And Tuesday was our last day before we flew out. So we were just in Rome. And I could get out for little times. And it was like, what are you going to do? And I remembered this. And I said, okay, we can just stay in the hotel room. I'll just sit here. Or there are still things to see. There are still things to do. There are still experiences to be had. And so we went out and we did a little bit, and I tried to keep my attitude up, but it'd be really, really easy to be bitter. But without that day, I still got to see things that 99% of the people in this world are never going to get to see. So I'm not bitter. And so things have happened to you that have caused scars. I'm not going to minimize those at all. But I would like to maybe help you with your perspective that there's still been a lot of good, and you have still gotten to experience things in this world that most will not get to experience. And if you can focus on that, then it is so much easier to be other-centered. You're not focused on your hurts and your scars, and you don't become a person of bitterness. Stop being bitter or angry or mad. Quarreling, harsh words, and dislike of others should have no place in your lives. Instead, be kind to each other. Tenderhearted, forgiving one another, just as God has forgiven you, because you belong to Christ. There's really only two paths. Okay, we went in a lot of different ways, but you're either helping or you're hurting. You're either growing or you're diminishing. There's very few. If you're in a neutral position as far as your relationships and your relationship with Christ, that is going to be a very, very small, minute season of your life. It's going to be a day or something. You're not going to stay neutral for a long period of time. You'll either be developing, you'll either be growing, you'll either be disciplining, you'll either be growing, or you'll be going in the opposite direction. So as it pertains to your relationships, your family relationships, your friendships, your coworkers, all those relationships, you are either improving or you are declining. Now, we can break those up in areas like what we just did, and maybe you're improving over here and declining over here. We can dissect this thing to the nth degree. It's not what we're here to do. What we're here to do is have progression and be Christ in the relationships that God has given us to have. And I really want to talk about the family unit as we close today, okay? These are your most important relationships. This is what it's truly true. These are the people God has given you to interact with more than anybody else, responsible to caretake, responsible, like I give it up for my wife. I was so sick, and she was a great caretaker in some pretty intense, crazy, scary moments in a country where people don't speak English. It's hard to find a doctor, hard to get to places, hard to figure stuff out, and she did all that for me. That's what I'm talking about, really being others-centered. So I want to ask you, with those primary relationships, are you others-centered? Like, how are you with your spouse? How are you with your parents? How are you with your children? How are you with your siblings? Are you truly others-centered when it comes to those relationships? Here's your homework. I would love, and I've done this before, and I can actually remember some of the answers I've received, and they're inspiring, they're encouraging, they're exciting. If you were to go to the people closest to you, spouse, parents, children, and just ask them, what is one thing I could do for you to glorify God and bring joy to your heart? What's one thing I could change? What's one thing I could start? What's one thing I could stop? What's one thing I could do? What's one thing I could provide? What's one thing? Just one. And listen, spouses, it's one. It's one. Well, Phil said this, so here's my top 13. I'll let you pick. No. You pick. You pick. What's one thing I can do to bring glory to God and joy to your heart? What is it? And mean it. Don't ask and be like, whew, I did it. Okay, because when they give you the answer, that's what they're longing for in that relationship. I don't feel you really listen. And when I say something, if we could just sit on the couch and get eye to eye and face to face instead of you zigzagging through the house, even though you may accomplish everything, I don't feel you're with me. If we could do a family devotional, we've talked about it and talked about it and talked about it, and we've never done it, and I've kind of been waiting on you. I would love to have a once-a-week family devotional. If you wouldn't hold things against me. When I mess up, it takes 2-3 days. I would love to be back to center much, much sooner. Whatever it is. Whatever it is. The one I remember most, for whatever reason, I did this to a group of teenagers years ago. And a teenager went home and asked her mom and said, what's one thing? And she goes, well, honey, it's a big thing. Are you sure you want to know? And she goes, yeah, Mom, I want to know. She goes, cool. Her mom worked at a crisis pregnancy center. So her mom got to engage in young women's lives who were chaotic. She goes, honey, biblically you're supposed to wait till you get married anyway, to be able to give yourself to your spouse. But she goes, I would love for you just to commit and yes, I know, but I will do that. That would be the one thing that my greatest fear for you would be, to have to experience something that I get to see on the day-to-day that I know is so tragic and chaotic and hard. I would love for you that would never even be an idea in your mind. This girl was 13 at the time. She goes, okay, Mama, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. And her mom was like, well, that's great, honey. There's going to be all, no, Mama. And so I've kept in touch with this family and this girl in graduation and married off. And she kept that promise, but it was there's more to that conversation than that. But it was a big question with a big response, with a long commitment. It wasn't, please put up your laundry every day kind of thing. I mean, this was a life commitment that this 13-year-old could choose to make or not to make, and make it, and to watch that relationship and that commitment and that intensity in that moment with that question, that's big. You may get something like that. It may not be laundry. It may not be, it may be big. But is that not what we're here for, each other, to push and to propel and to be a catapult and to make each other more like Christ? Is that not why we exist, this other-centered attitude? That we would live a life to encourage one another and push one another and teach one another and make one another better, to make this world better, to make it look more and more like Jesus. And so it is a dangerous question, and you may get a dangerous answer, but not dangerous in a bad sense, in a commitment, an accountability, a growth sense. And so ready yourselves for that before you go to lunch today and just ask and go, so what's yours? What do you want? Really think about what you want to answer if asked, and what you're willing to do when answered. Let's pray. Father God, you are a relational God. There's multiple religions in this world, and none of them have a relational component. All the gods are distant, dead, or not even tangible. For us, you, the one true God, you have been relational from the beginning, and how you interacted and how you invested in your people in Israel, to sending your Son to walk, to talk, to teach, to die, and to come back again. And so, Father, we can only draw the line that relationships matter. Our relationship to you and our relationship to others. It is clear in Scripture that loving God first and like no other is to be the prominent rule in our lives, and loving others as ourselves is right after. And so for us, Father, we would wish, we would pray, we would think that those we're around the most would be the easiest to love and the easiest to connect with, but many times, Father, that's where our greatest disconnect, anger, and bitterness can come from. And so, Father, I pray for every single one of us now. We are broken, and because of that brokenness, Lord, that's why you died on the cross. That's why you took our sins and gave us grace and mercy and forgiveness. But, Lord, help us not just take the grace, mercy, and forgiveness. Help us push one another and spur one another on to live in a way that gives you glory and changes our lives, changes the lives of those around us, and changes our world. Help us be salt and light with the way our words are put together, how they're said, the energy behind them, the timing. Help us have grateful and thankful hearts. Help us be people of forgiveness, not bitterness. So, Jesus, as we leave this place today, the question to be asked is a question with great weight, possibly with great consequence. Help us not have fear in asking that question, but help us be confident in knowing that it is there to propel us to be more like you, to change this world, to be more like you. We love you, Jesus. We pray this in your name. Amen. Next week, we'll wrap this puppy up. I do want to have one announcement for you guys. When I was here last time, I talked about the Imagine Zero project. You guys remember that? The Bible translation. About 16 other churches in the state of Oklahoma will be translating the Gospel of Luke, the Gospel of John, and the book of Acts for 3 tribes in Papua New Guinea. This project to translate those 3 books cost $52,400 for us to do it. It actually costs double that. But there's a person here in Oklahoma that heard about this multi-church movement and is paying for half if the churches will raise half. So he's putting up $52,400 if the churches are going to put up $52,400. So you'll start seeing some videos to help remind you about this project that's coming up. And Russ is going to be doing a series, I forget, it's like Famous Words of Jesus or something like that, where he is taking some of the big verses in the Gospel of Luke and the Gospel of John, things that when you hear, you'll go, oh, that's one of my favorites. Oh, I love that story. Oh, yeah, I know that these people in Papua New Guinea have never heard and don't know exist. And on July 21st, you're going to have your big day. July 21st is going to be the what are you going to give and what's it going to be like for Secret Church. And he'll talk about goals for your church and goals for you, but I just want to remind you it's $35 to translate a verse. That's what it costs to put people on the field. That's what it costs for the technology. That's what it costs to put it on paper. That's what it's going to cost to ship it. That's what it costs for the whole deal. It's $35 a verse. So I want to challenge you. You've got 2 months. July 21st, we're right 2 months away. For you Thrive It members, you got action teams. For others of you, however you want to pray about it, think about it, have a garage sale, whatever. We need $52,400. The neat thing is 2 churches have already done their projects, and there are 4 church camps this summer that will be taking their offerings and donating their offerings to the project. Right now, we already have $14,000 raised, and we're hoping each camp on average should bring in about $1,000. So hopefully another 4. So we're roughly, hopefully, prayerfully around $18,000 towards our goal, with around 13 churches left, including you guys, left to push forward. But I just want to encourage you guys, if you remember some of the videos and some of the things I preached about last time, this thing is near and dear to my heart, just because being able to see, I think I'm going to be going on the trip, and you guys will be invited as well to be able to deliver those Bibles to those people for the first time. We are really close to fulfilling the Great Commission, reaching every tongue and every tribe and every nation. You guys don't know, I mean, we're within a decade of that actually happening. Like, you guys will be on the earth watching that happen as Christianity crosses that line. It's a huge historical moment, and this is our chance to be a part of that. This is our chance to push that forward. And so anyway, I don't know what the Lord's going to put on your heart to do or to give, but I want every single church. I'm going around and speaking all over all these churches. I want us to blow it out of the water, man. I want us to just kill it and push it, and maybe do a whole. Maybe we'll do Ephesians and Philippians. Like, maybe we'll get those 3 books done and have enough money and just go, hey, go ahead and do a couple more books of the Bible for them. You know, we'll just keep pushing and keep pushing. So you got 2 months. Please be thinking big, praying big, and let's make it happen. Sound good? Good. I'll remind you again next week, so don't worry. So, all right, have a good, safe week. You guys are dismissed.